Welcome to Dave and Dharm Demystify, a FinTech Futures podcast, helping make sense of the world of FinTech and digital finance. Please sit back and listen as the two Ds take a subject and discuss it to make it clearer and easier to understand.
Demystify.
Welcome everybody to the Dave and Dharm Demystify show, and this week we have Andy Ellis back from Boxed, and he has some exciting news, don't you, Andy?
I do indeed. Thanks, Dharm and Dave, for having me once again. So this is a big week for us at NatWest Box. We have announced jointly with the AA that we are establishing a strategic partnership whereby the AA will be offering in short order products provided by NatWest Box on our platform, supported by NatWest, for a long-term strategic partnership, which we're incredibly excited about.
Fantastic. And because our show does go out to about 40 countries, it might be worth just mentioning who the AA is and what they
absolutely.
do.
It's not Alcoholics Anonymous, to be clear.
I was actually going to say that.
Well, let's make it clear.
Although, Andy, there might be a few banking products you could take to them as well.
Well, I have almost joking apart. Well, I don't want to make any more flippant remarks about alcoholism, so I'll park that metaphor. I'll park that there. But the AA, an absolutely fantastic organisation, household name in the UK, over 100 years old, effectively the largest motoring organisation in the UK, millions and millions of members. They provide roadside assistance, they provide driving lessons, they provide car financing, car purchasing, a whole gamut of services across the motoring spectrum. Very distinctive, bright yellow brand. They had a very famous historic advertising campaign where they were the fourth emergency service, which I guess just positions them, it shows the trust and longevity, the kind of brand awareness that they have in the UK.
No, I mean, they're a hugely iconic brand and one which is sort of part of our, I guess, cultural heritage. So, it's a brilliant brand to start a partnership with.
Starting with a bang.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you talk about partnership. Can you just sort of explain that? Because I think that's a really kind of key word.
Yeah, I think so. And look, there's often a clear distinction between a supplier relationship and a partner relationship. You often hear partnership, I think, overused. And it's often wishful thinking on behalf of the service provider. But I have no doubts that the characteristics of this relationship are a true partnership. We're very privileged that AA have put their trust in us, particularly as we are a relatively new business and that they're our first major customer. The way that we think about partnerships is this is massively strategic for the AA. It's massively strategic for NatWest. So you have CEO down support and sponsorship, as you'd have seen with the joint press release and the AA support from Jakob and his team. So I think there's that element of it. This relationship is designed to continue for many, many years, longer than many fintechs have been in business. So it is a partnership that will last for the long term. We know what we're providing over phase one, first couple of years, first launch, but we are committed to work together to co-create, to co-invest, to make sure we kind of break the boundaries of embedded finance together. They recognize that they bring to millions, to bring to us millions of customers, and we bring to them lots of stuff around safety, resilience, balance sheet, confidence. We got to get our heads together to think about how we co-create, how we make sure the pricing's right, how we make sure the revenue shares kind of and the way that the commercials are set up are reinforcing. The only way you can do this is really to call it a partnership and roll your sleeves up and do it together.
So, I mean, would you categorize this as embedded finance? And if it is, then it's clearly the biggest embedded finance deal in the UK.
Well, I'm not massively, I don't go around going, it has to be, what is embedded finance? Is it embedded finance? So it's not something I've given lots of thought to. All I know is that the AA have got a bunch of members, millions of members. Those members trust them. They trust them to provide financial products. We're fortunate enough to be able to in a position to do that. The conversations all around how can we embed that in the AA journey so that the customers can log on, check their balances, onboard, all within an AA starter journey. Looks and feels like the AA, very modern, very integrated, making sure that the propositions reward the loyalty of existing members, reward whether that's insurance or whether it's recovery. And we're designing our products and journey all around that integration. So I think that's embedded. However, when we really get excited around the table with the team is what can we do more to surface really exciting products at point of need, whether that's around, saving for servicing or paying for driving lessons, which I think cost upwards of £1,500 to £2,000 now to pass your test.
Yeah.
So what can we do to kind of embed the right product ahead of time to help people plan and pay for that in the right way and get discounts? So yes, I think I'd call it embedded finance. In fact, I will, but it's the tip of the iceberg.
Well, look, I guess it's going beyond white labeling, and I guess that's often the thing people kind of may get confused about in terms of the embedded. But I love the example of the driving lessons. It just so happens I'm about to take my son off for his driving test in Banbury, of all places. I think, it's kind of from like what the AA kind of and their customers get out of this. It's interesting to hear some of the kind of products that you talk about. But when you look at kind of the complete journey, there must be touch points that you sort of touch along that whole journey.
Yeah. And that's one of the, I'm sure we'll get on to talk about why the AA have chosen us. But of course, we host a journey, very much a yellow journey until you get to T's and C's. We're very conscious of, at our heart, NatWest Box we're not the front man, as it were. We're in the background, and we try and be in the background as much as the AA want us to be and as much as kind of compliance allows. So from a T's and C's perspective, we're front and center. That's important, because we're the financial services product provider. But ultimately, the members want to feel like they're in the AA journey. But when there's an issue with the financial product, it's my operations folk that pick up the phone or handle the chat. And that has to be handled in a way that is very respectful and in the tone that AA want their members to be treated. So that's very important that we don't do that in a kind of standard way, and we do that well. And we are handling AA customers on behalf. We are handling their customers or their members on their behalf. So we have to take that incredibly seriously. And that is something that, it's a pretty high bar. The other thing that's interesting, in a world of GDPR and data moving and how we can provide with the data back and they can do marketing campaigns and provide loyalty has to be handled very sensitively. All of those touch points and the complications we've worked through to get to this point. But I think, if you are choosing a partner to work with, it's important that you've both got a similar attitude and a similar way of thinking, because there's so many handoffs and trade-offs in this relationship.
So I guess the question is, like, why did they choose you? I guess they must have gone out to the market.
Yeah, it was. It was a competitive process. We were, again, feel very privileged, and there's a high degree of trust on us because we are the newest. We're the newest embedded finance player in town. We do spend our time getting things right. We do take things like compliance, consumer duty, and data privacy and security all incredibly seriously. That can be a pro and a con when you're having these kind of initial conversations, because embedded finance is not easy for either side. But I think, one of the reasons why did they choose us, and maybe you'll get the opportunity to ask them yourselves, but if I'm kind of putting down the things that we were in the very rigorous process, the things that we were pushed on and questioned on, technology is a bit of a given. You are expected to turn up with very good APIs and a sandbox. Quite quickly, you will be put in front of the engineers, and the engineers will be pretty unforgiving about what you have. So you have to have a very good tech platform. That doesn't get you the choice by any means. I mean, it might do at the kind of the fintech level, the SaaS level, the startup level, but certainly for someone like AA, who are effectively, betting their brand on you, that's just the very tip of the iceberg. What came through is really important, I think, was scale. So, they've got access to, I don't want to misquote them, but over 10 million of the UK population, one way or another, through household memberships. You've got to be able to scale up to match that.
Right.
They're a fast-growing organization with a dynamic CEO that wants to go places with a relatively short-term growth horizon, albeit making long-term bets. So you got to be ready to scale up. You got to be ready to match those ambitions. So the availability of balance sheet, the ability to take on as many deposits as they give us, the ability to scale up and have deep pockets where to invest alongside them when required has been really important. But I think there's also an intangible thing here, which is 200-year-old plus brands, both very well known in the UK. We've already got an institutional relationship, whether it's in our kind of our packaged account roadside recovery, so they know us, they trust us. You put the two brands together, and from a consumer perspective, it makes sense. And I think that was really important for us. I won't go into the details of the commercials. You wouldn't expect me to, but the length of time we expect this relationship to last is longer than many of our competitors have been in existence. You want to kind of commit to a partner that's going to be around, and we're part of NatWest, and we will honor our commitments.
In terms of, I guess, selling enterprise software, etc., the sales cycles are so long. How long does the process take to kind of choose a partner? Because when it comes to software, I guess you can go through the checklist from Gartner, etc. But in this kind of relationship, you're actually checking the balance, or they're checking your balance sheet and doing some financial due diligence, etc. So it's a lot more complicated, and that's really where I'm coming from. Is it, does that add to the timescale roughly?
It does. These things aren't and shouldn't be quick. You can quite quickly get to the point where we go, hey, let's be partners. And then kind of the hard work starts, because as a buyer, so if you're in the shoes of the AA in this instance, you need to get your head around what this means. All right. You've got to get your head around where the accountability lies, consumer duty aspects, financial promotions approval, SLAs, pricing discussions. That's before you even, the easy bit's the commercial kind of rev share agreement. That's the easy bit. All the other stuff is the regulations changing, at least one of the parties new to it. So you have to work through all that. You've got wrinkles on either side that are a little bit different for each conversation. But yeah, it takes a while to get there. And then you've got to build our technology might have to tweak to kind of reflect the product that's required. But also, and this is, I think one of the challenges that embedded finance has, if you're a buyer, if you will, or it requires technology build on the customer side, right? So the AA have to find resources to build, they have to find CapEx, and all of those things, when all of the really difficult priority choices that a consumer business has at the moment, and they keep coming, finding that time and that belief to either build an app journey or embed it into an existing digital journey, it is difficult, and all of that takes time.
The essence of this partnership is a combination of effort from both sides, and that's what makes it the partnership. Because I have seen tech vendors discuss their partnership with the clients, but when you come to a revenue share and an effort share, that really is what defines the partnership.
Yeah, marketing, you got to talk about. You both got to get behind it. My team has spent, it daily understates how often the teams speak. Yeah, right. It's a very, very close relationship. And I think as a provider, one of the great joys of this partnership is the scale. I can provide all the, I hate to call it account management because that's just a horrible term. It kind of does go back to that supply management, all the support required from my product team, from my marketing team, from my legal team, from my risk team, because of the size of the opportunity. On a smaller deal, I'm not sure it shrinks that much, the requirements needed, right? So I think one of the great learnings I've had is that when I came into this business, I fully expected my business case, full disclosure, had probably 100 contracts signed in the next 2-3 years. Lots of medium-sized, small contracts. Now I'm thinking the bigger the better, because the actual minimum cost of agreeing and running these things is so high the access to the millions of customers, the big institution, the big demanding institution on the other side requires so much effort to get right, but the prize is so big. Go big.
It's so interesting because I think if you look at the AA, it sounds like they've got scale. They've had forays into financial services before. So this would be a kind of what you're talking about in terms of the broader context would be unknown for them, which I guess makes it easier to have those conversations. But I'm also interested in value for their end customer as well. So were they really kind of clear about what they see that to be? When we last spoke, we talked a lot about loyalty as a kind of key play in the embedded finance. So were they very clear about what the end customer is going to get?
Yeah, I think you've hit on a couple of points there, David. One is, and others, similar types businesses have been in financial services on and off through their history, whether that's analog or digital, because they recognize that there's a very strong base and their products benefit from having associated financial services, and they're in a privileged position where they can provide that. So I think it's just an extension of that. And when you're dealing with a company that's been in that position, one, they know what they're getting into, so they know the upsides and they're comfortable with the value proposition and excited about the kind of digital, what doing this again in a truly digital world with a digital partner brings. So you get a lot of base knowledge. Not all of these examples have been successful, and there's been learnings from them. And sometimes you get a little bit of it's quite tough because they're trying to kind of cover for all the sins of the past a little bit. And what you've also got is, moving on to why you would buy embedded finance. If you look at companies like the AA, I mean, Jakob used to work at Lloyd's Bank, right? So he knows lending probably better than I do. Well, absolutely better than I do. I think he used to run a lending business. So, that is really helpful in a number of regards, because you get the mirror put back on you, but you get a very clear understanding of where pricing needs to be, why a consumer wants to consume this product, and why the AA are in an advantageous position to offer this versus a direct brand. And I think one of the, I've been doing this for a little while now, and I've met many corporates. But once you get the magic of someone like the AA, and there are other brands we can all think of, and you offer what you might call a very basic but important financial product at the right time, at the right price linked to loyalty in the right journey, it's incredibly powerful. And it gives the members of the AA a lot of comfort of the safety, the transparency, the fact that they know the pricing's going to be pretty good. They know that the AA aren't going anywhere, and then they look in the T's and C's and they see the NatWest name, and they know we're not going anywhere. So that's just an incredible, I guess, value chain, a set of circumstances that make it very attractive for a customer. But to summarize, long-winded way of saying it, if a company's done it before, they tend to get it, and they tend to know what kind of products will work and what their members want. I mean, it is a privilege that I spend a lot of time in different industries to my own, and someone like the AA know their members inside out. They've got deep DNA of serving their customers and helping.
So I was quite excited about the announcement, obviously, because it's two big brands in the UK coming together. And we have seen lots of deals of similar size, I guess, with retailers. We've seen zillions of smaller deals with fintechs, etc. But this one excites me the most because I think if we really think about what embedded finance is about, it's about owning customer journeys. And the customer journeys in owning a car, learning to drive a car, owning a car, financing that car, insuring that car, they're all very clear and evident, right? Mm-hmm. So from my perspective, it almost sets the line of direction for other big brands as to how to approach this. This isn't just about selling a loan. This is about managing the entire process. When somebody first passes their driving test, when they start thinking about buying a car, when they want to own the next new car. So for me, I think this whole idea of owning proper customer journeys hasn't really come through the banks and has to come through the brands that really own those journeys.
I think that's absolutely right. The one thing I would say, and unapologetically, we're starting with understood products in integrated but basic journeys, which we are both sides are comfortable that they will be big volume plays. All right. So what neither of us wants to do was start with the hard stuff and then kind of go, gosh, this is hard. Let's tweak, let's fail fast, let's not learn. And then go, you know what, budget cycles here, this is too hard. So what we've described here and what gets you excited, what gets me excited, is lots of journeys and embeddedness. But the partnership is underpinned by two massive products and a massive customer base. And we'll start there and we'll build and test together once we trust each other. So I think doing it that way, you've got a much greater chance of sustainable success than you do if you find a journey that we all think should work and then start to kind of get behaviors to change. I think it's much better to start from a really big, commercially sustainable position with high volumes.
Yeah, if you can build that solid foundation, it gives you the opportunity to, I mean, you use the word co-create, which I really liked, which is as the world around us kind of changes, as vehicles and insurance and all these things kind of change around us, it gives you the opportunity to sort of build products which are truly fit for purpose. One question I had, and you know, I kind of know what the answer is, but the AA is embedded into other businesses. So I've got insurance with Admiral, I think, and I know I get my roadside assistance through the AA through Admiral, so they're embedded. Are you, in terms of the journeys and the relationship, is it purely with the AA brand itself, or does it give you opportunities to kind of branch out into some?
No, I mean, it will effectively match where the AA goes for its business, right? Some of the acquisition for the AA will be through aggregators, whether they're members or not. So, you know, that gives the AA the opportunity to be whole of market, but to pull in non-AA customers and to give them the opportunity to be members with preferential rates. And then, so that'll be one acquisition channel, and another would be direct within. And obviously the commercials are very different on where we pick up, but it will always be under the AA brand, but wherever the AA brand go, we'll follow and support.
Fantastic. And then, I mean, it's as we said, iconic, brilliant place to start. What sort of looking forward for Boxed? Have you got sort of other things that you can talk about in terms?
No, that I can talk about. You know, I'm pretty sure there's more brands out there that will appeal to us that, you know, of a similar size. I like that size. I like the FTSE 100, FTSE 250 size. It kind of works well for us with the UK bias. The sales cycle should be quicker second times around. We've worked through all the hard yards, so and everything will be up and working. I'm hoping there'll be some fast followers we can talk about.
Brilliant. I mean, it would be wonderful at some point actually to kind of have the AA as part of this. I think once you've got the relationship going, just to talk about sort of that experience and what they are delivering for customers, because I think the whole subject of embedded is such an important one, and I think it is so modern in terms of the way it's been done. But you know, it's having examples to give people that I think really brings it.
Yeah. No, indeed. Very happy. Go well in a few weeks. If you want to go on and put some money in or borrow some money, Dave, you're very welcome to have.
Yeah, well, fingers crossed for my son today, because if he fails, there's another grand's worth of driving lessons.
I know. One thing that was important to me about the partnership was you got some great coverage. In the Times, we had a photograph of Jakob, the CEO of AA, stood behind a yellow van talking about embedded finance. And that's a big statement, right? Yeah. So from a NatWest Box perspective, I don't need us there. I just want Jakob to be front and center as a visionary leader who's going big on this, seen as a visionary leader and getting all the credit he deserves, AA deserves, for pushing forward on this.
Brilliant.
When you look at the market, Andy, I mean, obviously you've clearly looked at some of your competitors, etc. And you and I both know some of them are very small neobanks in effect providing this service. Some of them are tech providers looking to partner with somebody with a license, etc. I think there's oversupply in the market. What do you think? How big is this market? Can it sustain the players that are there already? Or do you see other banks, you know, do you see a Barclays or a Lloyd's coming into this space for embedded finance?
I always struggle with the market because there's all kinds of variations in this market, right? From a simple BaaS player to a deposit taker to a credit card business. You can probably put out 20, 25 different varieties of consumers. I mean, look, incumbents, if you kind of look carefully, they've all either trying it or tried it. There's partnerships that you can easily find if you look. So I think it's always been an interesting space for incumbents. I can't speak for some of the fintechs. Some have got pretty well-trailed issues, whether that's compliance, or scaling, or runway, or size of local market. But yeah, I mean, it's a healthy competition. I think the ones that will survive are the ones that are around for the long term. So they've got the resources to stick it out. The resources, balance sheet matters, access to funding. I'm incredibly fortunate that I rely on NatWest for the funding. So, that is a great competitive advantage that we have. And I think also in the market, the buyers are asking the same questions that you're asking, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big choice. I don't kind of overthink about the oversupply and who's going to be around. I just think about what we bring and what's different and what competitive advantage we have. And I'm increasingly clear on what that is. I think I'm as excited as you are in terms of making sure customer journeys are better, embedded becomes a thing. So I hope it kind of gains traction more broadly.
I know you said about the tech, but you acquired the tech from Vodeno for Boxed. How important was that compared to like using the NatWest, can I say, legacy platform?
Yeah, I mean, the Vodeno partnership has been incredibly valuable for us. And as you know, that's UniCredit are about to, I think, any day buy the kind of the Vodeno deal out because they recognize the value in the technology they have and the know-how they have. So it's been an incredibly valuable partnership from a couple of things. One is they've been at this game 3 or 4 years longer than we have. So some of the learnings, I sit on the board, I have a great relationship with the execs over there. So just the business commercial learnings have been massively important for us. In terms of the technology, most of the really useful technology has been around the orchestration layer between the corporates, which is something that NatWest has obviously not done much of at scale because we haven't had an embedded strategy. Those API layers, those orchestration has been really helpful for us to give us a leg up.
Brilliant. Well, listen, we're out of time. I mean, it's been fantastic to hear that. So thank you so much for coming on and for your openness and transparency. Really appreciate it. And we look forward to seeing the AA as it embeds your products in.
Great. Thanks. Thanks both, and good luck with the driving test this afternoon.
I will close off on congratulating you with the biggest embedded finance deal in the UK.
Thank you for tuning in to Dave and Dharm Demystify. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to like and subscribe and tune in next time as we take another topic and demystify it.